called I'm Lost. Definitely not on the AAA trip ticket. Thank you, T-Mobile, for having no towers out here.
Hi, I'm Charlie at Topeka's Capital City KOA Campground. It's a beautiful January day here. Erin's on her trip down to South Padre Island. A little bit about our park. She'll be staying here in our cabin tonight. We have a one-room cabin. We also have what we call a bunkhouse, and we have what we call a studio lodge. Otherwise, on our campground here, we're fortunate enough to have 3 fishing ponds. We also have a swim beach area with a swim dock. We have lots and lots of wide open spaces. We have a hay rack ride that we take on Friday and Saturday evenings, all through our buffalo grass area and around our ponds. And starting this year, we're also going to have movie night on the weekends in our indoor theater that we're currently building upstairs in our big barn that we have here. Also for the kids, we've got a humongous playground, and we try to do different activities from time to time. Try to keep it interesting and entertaining for everyone who comes around. So if you're ever in the area, go ahead and come by here and see us at Capital City KOA.
Hi there. Sorry, no food.
They've also said they are not going to do any new reconstructions, such as Invasion. Invasion, when they did that, they actually flash animated the entire story, with the exception of the episode that exists. It wasn't badly done, I would have liked to see better grade animation. But they have said, because of time, they're not going to do anything. The BBC has said no, they're not going to pay for them, and the restoration team just doesn't have the time. Now, I'm hoping that means no more cute special effects adjustments in the episodes. There is going to be recolorization of several of the episodes. When the Dalek war set comes out next month on the 2nd, the Planet of the Daleks episode that is in black and white will be restored and color balanced, as will the whole story.
Will it be by those guys that you were talking about last
Yeah, the restoration team does the work for that. They do all the episodes. So it will be as it was when it originally broadcast. They are also working on Mind of Evil, which is only in black and white now. But they do have fragments to work on, so they know what the right colors are. They don't have to go against color sheets. And they're also doing, I believe, the Ambassadors of Death. I haven't seen release dates for those yet, but I know that I've seen some of the notes and some of the stuff that's been getting cleared, because this will be one of the years when, instead of seeing 2 or 3 DVDs released like we have in the past, you're probably going to see 10 or 15. Because right now they're already beyond what they were last year. The specials, the 5 specials that were released, will be released on Tuesday as either single episodes or as a box set.
Do you think with the 2013 rolls around, they may actually come out with a Tom Baker box set that's all inclusive, or do you think this is
That'd be too big.
Yeah.
It would be, the Key to Time was an experiment in that when they did the original Key to Time release. Now, why they came back and decided they needed to release it again as single discs, I will never understand. They did a good job the first time. I'm sorry, I really didn't need commentaries on the episodes, because the episodes were all in pristine form and they did no restoration when they did special editions of them. The only difference is the commentary tracks are different. But I do not see that happening, because the box set would be 8 seasons, and that would be pretty hefty. I mean, you can go in Fry's today and buy all of them. Bundle up with strapping to keep all 80 DVDs together.
Seriously.
And there will be, by the time they release, there'll be roughly 140 DVDs. So I don't see them doing a conversion now. They are going to start doing Blu-rays.
It's about to come. I thought Blu-ray would be great for the Tom Baker era.
They're not doing none of the old episodes can even process to that.
I don't even understand why you would take something like that and even bother with Blu-ray, because you're not going to step it up anymore unless you alter it.
But basically what they've said is the classic series will not go to Blu-ray. I know they're going to redo the first of the 5 specials to Blu-ray, because it wasn't shot in high def like the other 4 were. That's the only one I know of besides Torchwood that's in Blu-ray. I have not heard, and I am hoping I never see the series go to Blu-ray. Other than Series 5 will be Blu-ray.
Torchwood would make sense to go to Blu-ray since they shot it in HD.
Yes.
But did they ever? Are they even shooting any of the Doctor in HD?
The Series 1 through 4 was specifically deliberately not shot in high def. Davies wouldn't put up with it, because his view on it was a waste of money. That the reality was there wasn't that much more you were going to get out of the extra cost. That all it would do was drive the cost of production up. And since he was desperate to get the series back online, it made sense, especially with the Eccleston year, to not do anything that would run the production cost any higher than they were. The only reason we got Doctor Who back was because BBC was pissed off at the MSAs, because they wanted something to compete with the U.S. market, and they basically had nothing. And of course, the various groups had been pushing Doctor Who for 15 years, finally sold the BBC, hey, why don't we try it? We've got perfectly good franchises we can use, why don't we reshoot some of them? And that's why you have Doctor Who, that's why you're going to get Survivor. which is a Terry Nation series from about the late 70s, early 80s. But that's where they came. Why they're coming out is because of the fact that the BBC wanted something to compete with Hollywood.
How long was Dr. Who in the dark?
It was in the dark for almost 16 plus years.
16 years?
Yes.
After Tom Baker?
After Sylvester McCoy. Sylvester McCoy was the last Doctor that aired in the BBC until Eccleston.
92 was what happened was, in fact, the last episode of film is actually Enlightenment. The last one shown is Survivor. And those episodes pretty much define why the series went out. Enlightenment's a good story, but Survivor is not. And the problem became, and the reason why the BBC dumped it was because the stories became inside jokes. Which you can definitely see if you've ever seen Greatest Show in the Galaxy. The three people they're presenting to, that's the board of the BBC. So there's a whole lot of just flat jokes throughout. The stories were getting worse and worse. They were also fighting off complaints about how violent the stories were. And doing Dragonfire was probably the icing on the cake when you basically do the melting scene from Indiana Jones in a children's TV series. The series was targeted for 7 to 8 originally. Then they moved it out to 8 to 9, and well, that didn't go over well for 8 to 9 because they really had an organization that was fighting tooth and nail through from the Tom Baker era all the way to the end in the 80s. I mean,
It was originally set up as a history show. And
That would make sense.
Yes. These are the original stories right here. These are the stories that started it all. And this one is the Doctor traveling back and teaching cavemen fire. Then, of course, we get Terry Nations jumping on the series with the Daleks when he pretty much changes the series from,
we're teaching history.
we're teaching history to, since he knew it was a science fiction series, he knew he'd probably get away with it. But even he didn't realize what he was going to get. That's actually going to help the main panel. But he realized what he was going to do, he hadn't written all of it at the time. And so the first time the Daleks were introduced, all you have is a round sphere that's looking out of their eye stalk. That's all you see. And they went from, a couple thousand viewers to everybody's watching.
And one of the episodes from the Sylvester McCoy era, Remembrance of the Daleks, is a direct throwback to Unearthly Child. It literally goes back to the beginning.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, it shows. Oh, interesting piece of trivia. I know you know this. The original pilot episode of Doctor Who, was delayed for 2 hours.
It was actually almost never shown.
Yeah, it was almost never shown.
Do you know why? Do you want to take a guess? Okay, the date is November '63. You want to guess what happened that day?
Kennedy's assassination.
Exactly what did it. If it hadn't been for the coverage of the Kennedy assassination, Doctor Who would have never sold. Because the original pilot has a mistake in it, which would have limited the series forever. Originally, We Come From Your Future. The reference, in fact, there's actually a reference to it with, as well with John Barrowman as the time agent. In the original pilot, the Doctor was human from the 51st century. Actually, from the 49th to 50th century. They occasionally go back to it every so often. And hence, if you've seen the Tales of Gwen Chiang, that's where that comes from as well. So when they reshot the pilot, they looked at the pilot afterwards. It didn't really air. It's almost nobody saw it because everybody was busy with real news coverage for some unknown reason. And so they went back and looked at the pilot and called it a new one. And when they called the new one up, the only change would come from somewhere else. And strangely enough, the unaired pilot exists. The other episodes do not. Marco Polo does not, which was the fourth story in the line. In fact, the Dalek story was only saved at the last minute when the Americans came over to get the rights to show Doctor Who. One of the things that happened was the guy was in the office of the story, the episode, and there's a stack in the burn bin. There's a Dalek story in the burn bin. It's the original Dalek story. The person looking goes, I have that. Sure, you can have it. We're going to throw it away anyway. That's the only reason why it exists. It's one of the few that got saved. The reason why Invasion exists is they thought it was Invasion of the Dinosaurs from John Pertwee. And the rules are you don't burn stuff for 5 or 6 years. Well, at the time, this was 3 years after they'd shown that episode. So that's the only reason why most of it survived. Because the BBC, and most people don't realize this, is the BBC until Castrovalva never aired a Doctor Who episode twice. They were shown once. The rules when stuff went out to the foreign country, to the distribution, is we don't want them back. So because Tom Baker had run for so long, they reran. The only episodes only run twice. There's only a few episodes that run twice. The first one that ran twice was on Rescue Channel because it was a way to break people from Tom Baker. Because Tom Baker had become synonymous with the Doctor.
That's why I grew up watching it.
Yeah, I mean, did he choose to leave or did they choose to see him leave?
He chose to leave. He was terrified of what he felt was going to happen to him.
Okay.
He was Tom Baker at the time was extremely vain. If you've seen some of his other work, you can tell. And he was totally terrified he would become typecast as a Doctor. That's all he would ever be able to do. Because that's actually what happened to Pertwee, as well as to Trout and some of the others. That they did not, because the series was created to give William Hartnell a job at the end of it, just before retirement. That was the reason the series was created. Is that he was a great actor. The funny part about Troughton, which demonstrates the real acting talent of his companions, is Hartnell couldn't remember his lines. So he'd change them. So he'd cut through pages of dialogue, he'd change the storyline. So when you pick up the books and they talk about the novelized stories, they're different because they followed the script. And Hartnell didn't, so he'd cut whole pages of dialogue out. I mean, there's the famous scene, which is now lost, although there's still a couple of snapshots, a telesnap of it. During the Dalek Master Plan, he reaches to the one of the Victorian tables, takes a wine glass off of it, and makes a toast to Father Christmas. That's not in the script. He just felt like doing it, and he did it. And it stayed in the final episode, because most of their stuff was one or two, but according to the people, the interviews I've listened to from the cast, they had a week to prep. 2 weeks they were airing it. So there wasn't time to reshoot almost anything. And some of the outtakes, some of the stuff that sort of stays in the episodes are hilarious. Watch the chase sometime and keep an eye on Vicky. Let's just say that there needed to be a bathroom break a little sooner. There's also in the web planet, the insects walk into the camera, what, 4 times?
I think something like that, yeah.
Literally, the guy walks straight into it. I mean, it's, mic and all. Well, I don't want to take up the whole panel. Anybody else want to say anything?
Yeah. I was one of the ones that, in some ways, I was really upset about when they canceled it during Sylvester McCoy's reign, because during Sylvester McCoy's run, they went back and dealt with a whole lot of storylines from much earlier. And you got a whole lot of stuff going, hey, wait a minute, as he was throwing very much back to the original and Trout. Because you got the deals of, with little slips that you would get occasionally, you've got a little more about the history of the Doctor himself in those. Little things like, there were occasional slips that always said that he was older than he always claimed to be. When there's one episode where he's talking about Rassilon and the creation of time travel, and he makes the comment, yeah, we had a little trouble with that. And it's like, okay. And when he went back and knowing stuff he's not supposed to know. I remember it's the Daleks, like I said, is one of my favorite episodes of Sylvester McCoy, because he's sitting there, he gets there, and he literally goes back and deals with stuff that his previous incarnations handled. And you got throwbacks to Omega, you got throwbacks to the Daleks showing up, you got the day of, when they left for Unearthly Child. They actually also had a little tribute with it with the starting tonight, the new science fiction show, Doctor, as he clicks the button off on the TV.
After they walk out the room.
Oh, yeah.
It comes on Ace is bored and watching TV. She leaves the TV on, and as they're leaving, the original pilot comes up.
Advertising, yeah.
Yeah, there's quite a few tributes in that episode. They're scattered here and there. One of the things that went on during the Sylvester McCoy era was Nathan Turner was desperate to try and save the series. So what he was trying to do was, by that time, the Doctor's stories had been pretty much locked down. The Daleks were no longer a threat. Cybermen were all but gone. And so most of the big villains, you got nothing left. Mm-hmm. So one of the things they were trying to do was put the mystery back, because the previous writers had pretty much emasculated everything. So by the time we get to his era, where's the mystery anymore? You pretty much know how this is all going to go out at the end.
You can only do it for so long, to be quite honest. Until you've done everything.
Well, one of the deals was in the storyline for the Trial of the Time Lords, which was his trial, and where they went in and did all this stuff. And you find out at the end of that one that Hyde, the prosecutor, is the final incarnation of the Doctor. And what's his reward for getting the Doctor executed? He gets all his remaining regenerations.
Yeah, that's the value.
And the Valyard is definitely the Doctor gone. Hi, I am an evil bastard now.
Yes, I am the master at this point. But yeah, that was one of the big changes. I mean, what most people realized was Hercules was a reboot. They were about to cancel it then, at the end of the Troughton run, because they weren't getting the viewership they wanted. Troughton had said he was looking to leave, and when he was going to leave, Fraser Hines was going with him. He and Fraser Hines were good friends, and they were friends also with Wendy Padbury too. Wendy didn't realize that Troughton and Hines had made an ultimatum to BBC a year earlier that either come up with something bigger for us to do, or we're out of here in a year. So they didn't have anything, and because the Doctor Who series had been putting so little money into it at that point, that's why it was all in black and white even up until 1970. They said, okay, fine, you don't want this anymore, you're out. And because we need to reset the series anyways. So that's why you have the hard break at that point, is that they were going to reshoot it, and that's when you get the 70s color effects and everything else that you get. You get some pretty hard 70s concepts deployed in Hercules era, as they were trying to reboot.
Which is also why you got him stranded during most of it as well. I mean, during a large part of his run. Is you're stuck on Earth. You're not going anywhere unless we tell you to. Because the way they did that was at the end of War Machines, they said, you have meddled too much. You're grounded.
Yeah, but the goal behind that was they wanted to move it more towards an action-adventure series. The special effects team, the action group, had gotten a pretty strong voice, and they wanted to be more involved, and they wanted to save, the BBC wanted to save a little money, so it's a little less expensive to not have to refit the rock quarry to something else. And let's face it, about a third of the Doctor Who episodes occur in the rock quarry.
You know? I never thought of that.
I was going to say, until you said that, I didn't have cases.
Yeah, most of them, there's a lot of them to do, especially the early ones.
Yes.
That, inevitably we're running around the rock quarry doing something.
The hand of fear, it's actually admitted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The other one that's big on that is the first anniversary episode, which is, of course, the Three Doctors. It's shot in the rock board almost exclusively.
Yeah. It looks very...
Okay, are there any video games new to the market you'd like to recommend to people watching this? Or ones you'd say, oh, stay clear, or this is crap?
If you have it too close...
Say ones coming out right now are good would be Mass Effect 2. It's on Xbox and PC. Coming up in the next couple of months on PlayStation, you have God of War 3. And the ones from last year that are really good, you got Dragon Age, you got Borderlands, you got Modern Warfare 2. But I would say the one right now you should stay away from would be Dark Void.
Okay. What martial arts do you know, and could you give a demonstration?
See, I started out learning Shaolin Kung Fu, Southern style. And then after that, I took some Chinese Kempo, Chin Na. And then I went on to study at Parker Kenpo, which is American karate. And after that, I took some Wushu and some Chin Wu.
Okay. Care to give a show?
I could do like a quick star block kind of thing, and Kenpo, it's like that, and you have fingers set. Yeah, stuff like that.
Okay. You said in your reply email about this, you thought it'd be, fun and cool to be interviewed for YouTube. Have you been interviewed for YouTube before? And, what is the name of the video that it comes up as and the profile would be found under?
This is my first one.
Oh, really? That's nice. What is your favorite fantasy novel, not counting ones you've written?
That's the easy one. It's Lord of the Rings, hands down.
Okay.
Anything Tolkien writes, that's my favorite.
When you write a story, do you outline it and give it multiple drafts before submitting it for publication? Or do you get like a mild idea in your head and then write details in on the fly for what you want in it?
I don't stick to like a written outline. I have ideas in my head, and I kind of piece them together of what I want to see, and then I take it from there. And if something I feel I wanted to put in there, if the story or the characters aren't really going towards that, I'll take it out. Maybe save that idea for another story. But it's, sometimes I'll feel the plot needs a little kick, so I'll put myself down there with the characters and see what I can kind of do to bring the story more alive. And for publication, I'd self-publish my book, but for me, I handwrite the book on paper first. Then I'll go back and I'll type it, and I'll change things, I'll add and delete and clean things up. I'll print that out, I'll read it again, I'll mark it with a pen, I'll change it again, and then I have an editor, and the editor will edit out things or kind of polish it up. I'll read what he changed, and then maybe if I like it, I'll keep it the way it is, or if not, I'll add things, delete things that maybe he changed.
Thank you, Erin Stevens.
Thank you. Also, epic fantasy novel I wrote, Stolen Moon of Londor. You can find it on Amazon. Go to Borders, pick it up. You can find it at Barnes & Noble, places like that. So if you like Tolkien and some action, check it out. Okay.
My name is Terry Whitmore, and I'm the North American representative for Orangutan Comics. It's an independent publishing company in the United Kingdom. We put out an anthology called Faster Than Light, or FTL. We're on issue 4 at the moment. I've even got a couple of stories in issues 1 and 2. We also do Alpha Gods, which is a actual title from Ian Sharman and one of our co-founders. We are always looking for new artists and new stories, so hope everyone will go to orangutancomics.uk and come by and see our works. That's about it.
Hi, I'm Glenda Boozer, and today I'm reading The Summer Day, which is part of the Writers for Relief anthology. This is a benefit anthology. All the proceeds go to the Red Cross Hurricane Relief Fund. It was published right after Hurricane Katrina, but proceeds have gone to help with Rita and Ike, and I'm sure we're not going to run out of hurricanes anytime soon. So this is my story. It was a day of such golden richness that even a small boy could feel it. The morning was clear and green, the air like crystal. The boy walked out into it early, drawn from the house by the smell of awakening leaves, wetting his bare feet in the dew. As the day ripened, it grew more golden, the sunlight pouring down like honey. The boy could close his eyes and feel it touching his cheeks like warm kisses. The scent of the air changed from greenly damp to hot, rich, and a little dusty. The boy rambled through the pastures and woods near his home, alone but for an occasional sparrow or a gray squirrel high in a tree. Sometimes the sheer joy of movement sent him leaping through the tall flowers, higher with every bound, stopping at last to catch his breath. He climbed trees and stroked the mossy bark or poked at the ferns that grew in the highest boughs. Presently, he was hungry. He had bread and cheese and water with him. As he opened his knapsack, he heard a scuffling at the root of his tree and looked down to see an old man climbing up beside him. Am I intruding on a treetop feast? Is there bread and cheese and water for one here? The old man seated himself carefully on a nearby branch and winked at the boy. It tastes better when it's shared, declared the boy, though he felt hungry enough to eat it all and more. The man looked pleasant. The boy felt kindly toward him. They shared, and it seemed that the chewy bread and all but melted cheese did taste better. The water was hot. It smelled like the air in the sun, but it was part of a hot summer day, and it too was good. Then the old man slipped down from the tree, and the boy followed. Look, said the man, summer also shares with us. And he led the boy to a patch of blackberries. The ones in the sun were warm and ripe. The ones in the shade were cool and juicy. And the boy was soon full and somewhat purple. They sat for a while and watched grasshoppers scrambling through the leaves and berries and leaping to the ground. Then the man got up again and ambled down a faint path, which the boy again followed. They soon came to a stream in the woods. Do you like to follow streams? The old man asked the boy. The boy nodded. The stream bank was high, but it sloped gently. The boy felt the dampness with his bare feet as he followed the old man upstream. The banks were covered with bright green moss and white violets with purple throats. It looked like another world, as if the sun and dust and black-eyed Susans had been a dream, or as if the boy were dreaming now. The source was not far. There was a shallow well, ringed with mossy stones and violets, with a tin cup hanging on a tree limb just above it. Another gift of this day, said the old man, and he dipped up the water and gave it to the boy first. This water was cool, and somehow it seemed wetter than the other. The boy filled his flask as the man drank, then sat beside him on a rotten log at the top of the bank. They talked of walking and being alone and summer and birds and plants and trees. After a while, the light got greener and the air got cooler, and the man said that it was going home time. The boy looked wistful and said, "This is the best day that there ever was. I wish that every day could be like this." "That's a big wish, but not altogether a bad one," said the old man. "It reminds me of a wish I had once. But let me give you something to remember this day with. Put it under your pillow and see what happens." He gave the boy an old brass coin, so worn that he could not tell what kind it was. "It's a good luck piece, but I'm all done with it now. Take it." He insisted, and the boy put it in his pocket and trudged home to supper. When he was undressing for bed, he found it again and tucked it under his pillow for the fun of it. He slept a dreamless sleep, a happy boy's sleep. It was a day of such golden richness that even a small boy could feel it. This small boy wanted to look under his pillow for the coin, but he didn't. He walked out into the morning, not noticing that the air again was like crystal, the dew wet on his bare feet. As the day grew golden, he realized that he was walking in the same direction as yesterday, that he couldn't do anything else. He closed his eyes and felt the warm sun on his cheeks and thought, it's just like yesterday, all over again. His body carried him through fields and up trees as if someone else controlled it. He was frightened. Then, as his hands took bread and cheese from his knapsack, he knew that more was strange than even his inability to control his body. His knapsack had been empty when he had laid it down last night. Today, it was as full as yesterday, and with the very same things. There was the old man again. The boy wanted to shout at him, to beg him to take back the coin, to remove the spell if that was what he suffered from. But other words came from his mouth, the words of yesterday's conversation. And the old man said the same words, and the food was the same, and the berries were the same, and the stream, and the water. And the boy heard himself saying, this is the best day there ever was. I wish every day could be like this. He knew that the old man was magic, or the coin was, and this day was the same day over again. He panicked inside himself, watching the day unroll like a story reread, wondering if every day could be like this. Surely it was a lovely day, but he wanted tomorrow too. Still, the day went on, and a small boy can only panic for so long. He rode along and watched everything while his feet and his hands and his eyes and his mouth took care of themselves, and then the time passed more swiftly, and soon he was putting the coin under his pillow again, and when his body slept, he slept. The next morning, he jumped up and threw his pillow across the room. The coin was there. It was tomorrow. The day was not repeated. He jumped for joy, then took the coin and put it in a drawer, for if the magic was gone, it was still a curious keepsake indeed. By listening and watching, he found that the day he was in was the day after the one that had happened twice, so to speak. He had wondered if the repeated day had been instead of a real day, but it was really something extra, like dreaming a whole day's activities in the space of a night's sleep. After a few uneventful days of quiet summertime, the boy's curiosity had grown and his fear had paled. After all, he hadn't been hurt, had he? Anyway, it was only a dream, and so it wouldn't matter if he tried it again, especially since it had only worked once and most likely would never again. It hadn't really been the cause of the dream. It couldn't have been. He placed the coin under his pillow in hope and doubt. He slept fitfully after lying awake a long time. The morning brought the golden day that the boy instantly recognized. His thoughts raced as his hands and feet performed their automatic tasks. He scarcely noticed the dampness of the dew in his excitement. Again, it was the same day, but so different. He was not afraid this time, but fascinated with the phenomenon. He watched the old man carefully when he came. How had he thought to give such a gift to a boy he knew so little of? A boy who he had only met that day. He would have liked to thank him more nicely, but only the same words left his mouth. Perhaps tomorrow he could find him. Meanwhile, the day at hand held its fascinations for him. He couldn't change his actions, but his thoughts and his attention were free to wander. This time, he noticed a little frog resting beside the mossy well. This time, he listened to his mother's words at supper and to the bird songs in the twilight. He did not find the old man the next day, nor had anyone ever seen him. Eventually, the boy's thoughts turned to other things. He used the coin now and then, but the days to come held more for his young imagination. Once, when he was very ill, he slipped the coin beneath the pillow and enjoyed a day without fever. He awoke the next morning to find the summer day yet again, to his great surprise and some worriment. Could he be caught here forever? Might he, fearful thought, have died in his illness and somehow passed into the summer day forever instead of to another place? No, not at all. The very next morning found him weak but not feverish. His mother told him that the crisis had passed while he slept in the night. As the years passed, the day became more and more precious to him. The boy became a man, and then an older man. The day shone through his years like a golden beam of summer sunlight. When he was tired, the day was restful and refreshing. When he felt pain, he could always take one day and slip into his youthful body once more. When responsibility seemed to overwhelm him, there was always a refuge. When he needed it most, he would sometimes have 2 days in a row once more, but he always returned to the next day in his life. People who knew him thought that he must be very wise. He carried a kind of serenity with him that few people could match. Nobody ever knew his secret, the gift that he carried with him through a long and happy life. He never married, though. Perhaps he didn't feel such a deep need. Perhaps he didn't know how he would explain his gift to anyone else. Perhaps he didn't want to share it or didn't think that he could. In any event, it was a good life, and he was content with it. He began to carry the coin in his pocket most of the time. There came a day in spring, one of those cool mornings of infinite clarity. The old man went for a walk. The first tiny leaves were budding from the trees, and the meadow was filled with tiny bluets, those four-petaled pale blue flowers that some call innocence. There was a light breeze, and the sunlight simply sparkled. As he strolled through the meadow at the edge of the trees, he noticed a girl kneeling in the grass, picking bluets and making them into tiny bouquets. He sat on a stump and chatted with her for a while in the cool sunlight, amid the pale greens and pale blues of that exquisite day. When the little girl said, "This is the best day there ever was," the old man knew what to do. He reached into his pocket, smiling to himself.
Okay. Are you going to ask the question, or are you going to... You want to...
Oh, you can launch into it if you like, because we've already started talking about it.
Okay. Well, the thing is, for the viewer, they might want to have an intro of what the topic is.
Okay. Well, just started recording this. We started talking prior to recording about NASA sending out a probe to look at the additional planets beyond Neptune. This guy is more familiar with the names than I am.
The name is Larry Friesen. I used to work in the space business here at NASA. Presently teach part-time at the University of Houston Clear Lake. In a sense, NASA has already sent out a probe called New Frontiers. Its mission is to observe Pluto and other objects in the Kuiper Belt as opportunity presents. Pluto, by the way, is a member of the Kuiper Belt. It's the second largest we know of, and it was the first discovered by Clyde Tombaugh back in 1930. The other largest object now known in the Kuiper Belt is called Eris. It's very slightly larger than Pluto by a tiny bit. Then there are a number of others. One's called Sedna, one's called Waowar. There are some others whose names I do not know. I don't anticipate missions in the near future to go specifically to look at those objects. They would take as much energy from a space probe as we're now using on Horizons, which is New Horizons is the fastest spacecraft we've ever sent out. And I don't know if there's enough motivation to put that sort of a mission into the budget.
Okay, next question. What do you think is the first place we're going to colonize? The moon, Mars, or an asteroid in the belt?
Most likely the moon. It's closest, it's easiest to reach in terms of time. Some near-Earth asteroids are easier in terms of the amount of propulsion you have to have, the amount of propellant you have to carry on your space vehicle. but they're longer in terms of distance and time, so you'd need more life support, and we might send a mission to one of those early on, but colonizing is a longer-term endeavor, so I'm guessing we would colonize the moon first. That would make the most sense because it's the easiest to get to in terms of energy and time when you combine the energy and time together. And it's a way we can get emergency supplies to a lunar base in a couple or 3 days, or you can get a person back, can rescue a crew from a lunar base within 2 or 3 days, or 4. To get to or from Mars is several months. Just to get there, several months back, and then you have to wait till the orbits are right, so it's a round trip time of a year or better, or maybe 3 years. Asteroids, near-Earth asteroids, some of them would be easier to get to than Mars, but most of them, getting to them and back will be also a matter of months. Any main belt asteroids, they're further out than Mars, so they'll take even longer to get to than Mars.
What got you interested in spaceflight?
Well, that was a result of I was interested somewhat in spaceflight very early on because I was interested in science fiction, I was interested in science, but specifically in spaceflight was the gift of 2 books when I was 8 years old. One was for my birthday, and one was either for that same birthday or for the following Christmas. One was a big golden book on aviation, which had in its last section, that book had everything about the origin of flight, the Montgolfiers balloons, the Wright brothers aircraft, Lindbergh's flight across the Atlantic, and so on, everything up to the mid-1950s when I had that birthday. And the last little section, last couple of page or two, was the speculation that the next phase in human flight might be into space. And they depicted a rocket on the pad, and they showed men on acceleration catches. The other book was a child's book of stars, which I still have. I think its author is Cy Barlow, but I'd have to check on that. And in that book, I learned that the moon is Earth's nearest neighbor in space. I'd like to go there. The place I'd like to go? A means of getting there. Bam! I was interested. On top of that, I was at the same period of time reading some of the things that Werner von Braun was putting in Collier's magazine with illustrations by Chesley Bonestell, and also some of the books that he and Bonestell put together, and was reading other. I was a Cub Scout and therefore took Boys Life magazine. In Boys Life magazine, they had a comic section in the middle, and one of the comics was Space Conquerors. And so I began to get more and more interested very quickly at that point.
Okay, heard you used to read Flash Gordon comic strips, so I have to ask, things like Cinema, the movie that came out in '80, the last TV show, do you think they hold a candle to what you read as a kid?
Well, I've actually seen the old Flash Gordon movies, the black and white ones with Buster Crabbe as Flash Gordon, and they're quite entertaining. The 1980s movie I enjoyed tremendously. I didn't think it was quite the same caliber, but it was an awful lot of fun. It was fairly well done. The new TV series, I tried watching it a couple of times and I couldn't get into it because it seemed to have nothing to do with the original Flash Gordon. The only things in common
I know that feeling. That's why I didn't watch it either.
The only things they seemed to have in common were the names. And I'm sorry, that's the same reason I couldn't get into the new version of Battlestar Galactica. Nothing seemed to be the same except the title of the series. And I'm sorry, I don't like people going back and just trashing somebody else's original idea. That's, to me, like painting mustaches on the Mona Lisa. Any fool can do it, but it's not great art.
I see when you do a remake, you have to be respectful of the original content.
Yes. Respectful plus, try to do a good job of it. There's good jobs and there's bad jobs.
I write a Buck Rogers series. I try my best, about that. Is there anything else you'd like to comment for the camera?
Oh, I just enjoy spaceflight. It's a great adventure. Just waiting for us as soon as we just work up the nerve, both in courage and in terms of budget. I rate a civilization's worth to live in by the adventures that are possible within it. That's why this is perhaps one of the greatest times to be alive in history, if we can make the best of it.
Thank you so much for that.
Hello, my name is Brandon Phillips, and I am the talking mouth, or the BMIC, of the OEGP.
Any relation to Julia Phillips?
Not that I know directly. I'd have to know part of the side of the family, and I could probably bro it down, but there's a chance.
Okay. Out of curiosity, what movie released in the 80s got you interested in making short films?
Honestly enough, that would be The Evil Dead, directed by Sam Raimi, released in the early 80s.
And working on a non-Hollywood budget, how easy is it to produce FX for your films?
Depends on the quality of the effect that you're going for and pretty much the amount that you want to spend on it, but essentially depends on, again, what you want, but the overall fairly easy. From a gaping wound can be done mostly stuff that's at your house. Then you can go to like a party shop and buy some latex and some other odds and ends and really make some horrific stuff for a couple bucks.
Okay, and what is the...
Practice.
Oh, sorry.
It's not all right.
What is the average budget of one of your productions?
The budget price pretty much wavers by who is the highest breadwinner of the week. We kind of pull in. But the highest we have spent totally on a budget is about $1,000, $1,500 along those lines. But the average that we spend on most of our weekend shoots or what have you, factoring in lunches, is usually about $150 to $200.
That's pretty nice.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Okay. What do you...
Explain how you make your masterpieces.
All right. Well, it's a technique called digital painting. You do it using an image editing program like Photoshop. There are free programs like a GIMP, that's GIMP. Usually you need something like a tablet, from Wacom or one of its analogs, but you don't always. I just started out doing it with the rollerball mouse, and it actually worked out sort of okay. It would have helped if I knew what I was doing at the time, but I know when I started doing it, I would start by getting like a photograph or a poser render for the basic skin tone and maybe some of the colors. And the results weren't always what I wanted, but they worked out for what they were at the time. A lot of the earlier works that I have on my website were done using a poser render as the basic reference, and then extra colors to balance things out.
Could you share that web address?
Which one?
Where to find it online?
Actually, a lot of the... my address?
Yeah.
It's Christ Writer, ChristWriter www.deviantart.com. So it's not the most professional place to have your portfolio.
Actually, I post there. I post there too. So
yes, it's I know half the time I spend on there is spent promoting myself and my art, and the other half is spent looking for the latest drama with which to point and stare. It keeps me from going insane. Well, I get to live through someone else's insanity vicariously. It works.
Interesting description of the site.
Yeah.
Anything further you'd like to say?
Just mostly for if you want to learn how to do it, you just have to do it. I grew up thinking I could not draw. I did not start trying to learn how to draw and working at art till I was about 18. And I just decided I was going to do it or die trying. So, yeah, it's okay to suck when you're starting out, because I did, and I knew it. And use whatever resources you can find to learn.
Well, what you have in the art room is a major contrast to sucking. And I'm going to photograph that later with your permission.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Great.
And that's the difference between working at it and giving up. My mom always, growing up, my mom always told me an amateur is a professional is an amateur that never quit. And to fix what I almost screwed up, an amateur would be the professional that gave up halfway through.
Great words.
You just got to start trying, and maybe you'll get there, maybe you won't, but you just got to do it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Dr. Brewster's office, Nurse Blake speaking. Oh, hello, Senator. Oh, you have the 24-hour flu? The doctor can see you 2 weeks from Tuesday. Goodbye. Dr. Brewster's office, Nurse Blake speaking. Oh, hello, Governor. I'm sorry. The doctor is too busy to talk to you. I'll have to put you on the hold. Dr. Brewster's office, Nurse Blake speaking. Oh, hello, Ms. Vanderbilt. What, another party? I'll have the doctor get right back to you.
That's it. I'm Malcolm Harris. I am the creator, writer, and publisher of Witch Girls Adventures and Witch Girls Tales. Witch Girls Adventures is a tabletop RPG and it's designed to get young girls ages 11 to 17 into gaming again, tabletop gaming, which is like pencil, papers, and dice. The world of which girls is one where magic is real, and it's controlled by basically women who, since the dawn of time, have used magic to help humanity and hinder it. Characters that you make in the game, you play a witch at one of many schools of magic around the world. The comic book is actually a complement to the game itself. In the comic, it follows the tales of 6 young witches as they learn how to use their powers and everything. Each witch has their own different personality. And so on. And that's the world of witchful adventures.
Hello, we are Ghost of a Rose. We do folk music and Irish music and what they call Filk music. And Filk is a derivation of other things where you take the music that you already know from something else and you write new words to it. It's often funny, but not always. And it's just not really that easy to define.
And tonight we have a guest drummer. Stephen Grist has agreed to join us on stage.
Yes, they're real. No, they can't be. Yes, they are. I've seen them bobbing up and down as she goes walking through the tunnels up to the end. Yes, they're real. No, they can't be. Yes, they are. You are out here in the forest, and I've seen them floating from a swimsuit in the pool. Men's eyes are popping from their sockets, watching as they sway and jiggle. Their soft as pillows, large as melons. Lord, they're huge and alive, just to see them men desire. And lots of flesh, hot like fire, just to see them men desire. Yes, they're real. No, they can't be. Come me and we will see. They admit that they are truly hard like rubber silicone. Coming out. It's dark, I can't see. Did I say that I will show? We are coaching far tonight, just to see them in the night. Coming out. No, I can't see. By the lantern we will see her dancing now in all her splendor. They are real and not like rubber. Yes, they're real. No, you told me. Yes, I said you should believe me. Now see them unwrapped in darkness. Now you see them bouncing, weaving. So once you get born not believing. Men's eyes are popping from their sockets, watching as they sway and jiggle. Their soft as pillows, large as melons. Oh, they huge and out of line, just to see them men desire. But lots of flesh, hot like fire, just to see them men desire. To see them, they desire.
Then we wanted to start with a little folk tune for you. That was, I wrote the lyrics to that one into a song about elves originally.
Yeah, it's one of those things that once it gets in your head, you have to write it, because otherwise you're stuck with it forever.
The next song we'd like to do is a song that Tapestry wrote and recorded. No, excuse me, wrong song. Blah. Okay, this is a song about pirates. I'm sorry.
And my other master, stolen boats through the swing.
Okay, I thought we'd have more young folks here today. This next song was originally written by John Morsey of Marcy's Playground, which is, as I said, something the younger folks might recognize.
A cloaking road up and dry, hangs in the sidewalk road behind. All those things that mother said were that's it, all and I know why did not say why all this summer evening. Oh, 16 books and magic spells. 16 books and magic spells. Stars and sing down. I cannot say why all this summer evening.
For those of you familiar with Blackmore's Night, this song is one of theirs.
And now, the drum solo.
It does so well with it.
Seems like she's been here for
We're going to actually kind of take a little bit of a break and sing harmony for Steve. He's going to get up there and play a song for us. This is an old folk song written by Woody Guthrie.
Check. It's on. This mic is on. I told him, don't give the drummer a mic. It's a bad idea. Our country took the challenge in the year of 33. For the farmer and the factory, for all of you and me, saying roll along Columbia, yeah, ramble to the sea. By the river while you're rambling, you can do a little work for me.
Okay, the next song that we're going to do is one that was just written last week. Anybody who's heard us talking about this stuff knows I've been collaborating with a lady named Alice Tatum. She's been writing lyrics and I put it into music. And this is the latest one that I've done with her.
they haven't got
That song was written for a contest that hasn't occurred yet. We kind of got to jump the gun.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah. The next song we're going to do was written by this lady right here. We have a phone call on this second.
Okay, Bob.
Listen to the rain falling on the rooftop. Listen to the rain on the window. Listen to the rain bouncing up the sidewalk. Listen to the rain fall. How I love to lie awake in my bed with the thunder crashing over my head. Snuggle way down between my sheets. The thunder lulls me right to sleep. Listen to the rain falling on the rooftop. Listen to the rain on the window.
was so much simpler before. Any bug that he encountered, very much more wrong. Now it's hard to recognize it all. Just one simply error, who is to show?
Well, my opinion about conventions are a great place for people to get together with people who have similar interests, and even people that have interests that are outside of the one that they're normally used to. I've been coming to science fiction conventions, gaming conventions, and such for years. I've been there as attendee, as a GM, as a game master, as a vendor even, and now I help run them. And as one of my good friends puts it, these are our people. Geeks are our people. We know what we have, and we have a community. And whether you're a Star Trek fan, a Star Wars fan, Doctor Who, Battlestar Galactica, or something out of the blue, it's all good. And just to always enjoy what you can find when you go to the convention, because you never know what you'll find, because you may find something that you never expected when you go.
I think this is where the ant scene is inspired from for the last Indiana Jones movie. These guys swarm, they bite. Oh, don't encounter them if you ever come to South Padre Island.
Okay, my name is Brian. I'm down here gathering ghost shrimp. They're little. They look like a little lobster. You suck them out of the sand. You find little holes the same as clams, and you use a suction rig to suck them out of the sand. And you put them on your hook, and you try and catch fish with them, mostly whiting. And that's what they look like.
Thank you.
This is South Texas.
Oh, James, Texas. What's it called? Collegiate Pop. Going backwards. We're on YouTube. So anyways, I'm asking for a 3-year lease.
Because Ann called here saying that they were complaining about it. I'm like, he was just fixing it. And I was like, you should just call Jeff. I don't know.
No, they can come in and say, they're going to take it down. First I said the lease is enough, but then I said, well, yes it is. It was up in September, after the season.
So they're building a piece for using homes and construction.
Well, see, the problem is, here's the whole story. The rest of the story. They wanted to build their developments, they wanted to build it down the park, and we were the only user of that land for endangered species. And so the county lost it, and the developer lost it on suit because of that land was being public use and we were endangered species. They don't want to get into some area up here, it's my suspicion. But the initially, the judge is like, if the word comes around, these poor little turtles are going out home.
That's not good. Hold on.
Hi, welcome to Sea Turtle Lake. We're on South Padre Island at the Sea Turtle Hospital. Our job is to rehabilitate injured sea turtles, return them back to the ocean. We're also an educational center, so you can come and see and meet these beautiful animals. We also run the next conservation program in the summer, where we protect eggs, release the baby hatchlings, which is also a public event here in the summer. Go to our website, seaturtlelink.org, and check us out. Thanks for visiting. We'll see you soon.
Okay, my name is Chris Bradbury, and I'm here at the Winter Texan Snowbird Extravaganza, which is put on by Medipack Travel Insurance for friends and members of the Canadian Snowbird Association. And what we do is we try to have these rallies for people to come out and share their experience together of being a snowbird, a person who likes to spend their winters outside of the cold of the north, either in Canada or the United States and enjoy the sunny climes of the southern United States and other warm climates around the world. This event will be on for 2 days at the South Padre Island Convention Center. It's got some great entertainment. We've got Walter Ostanek, Ronnie Profit, Keith Ross, Sean Emery, John Bressler, and Canada's #1 musical comedy duo, Bowser and Blue. We've been doing this for over 12 years down here at the South Padre Island Convention Center, and we think everybody should put it on their schedule for this year and years to come. We're usually in the first Tuesday and Wednesday of February each year, so in 2011 that'll be February 1 and 2. So we hope to see you all down here at lovely South Padre Island.
And my final night here is not going to be camping, obviously.
Welcome to the South Padre Island Dolphin Research and Sea Life Nature Center. And we're all about nature on South Padre Island, and more so, all about dolphins.
All right, we're located in Port Isabel, Texas, just 3 miles across the bridge, South Padre Island here, out in front of Pirates Landing.
That's right, and we do have a website. When you start hearing some of these things, you might want to go to it. We can talk about all kinds of things on our website. We have dolphins, we have sea life, the dolphin's world, and we feel like we're a voice for the dolphin. And our website is SPI for South Padre Island SeaLife.org. Also, I'm Dolphin Whisperer on Facebook, and we talk about dolphins every day. And this is our life, going out and filming and documenting the dolphins that live here, the tribe of the Laguna Madre Bay. And one thing we like doing is protecting their world. And that's helping seashells, live seashells, stay alive. We want to see them stay alive in their beautiful world. And if you want to take a souvenir home, shop eco-friendly and make sure nothing has been killed to sell to you as a souvenir. If you find a live shell while you're out walking the beaches, throw it back and keep one that's already died as your wonderful souvenir at South Padre Island. And I would love to show you all some of the creatures at our Sea Life Center. And these are representative of the Laguna Madre Bay. And look here, we have our touch tanks. And we feel the touch tanks are important so that children will love sea life. And if they love it, they'll take care of it. And we have wonderful different species of shells. Here we have a banded tulip that's alive. And here we have a pear whelk, a beautiful pear whelk with its white body, alive. And our Texas state shell with another little shell sitting on his back, the Texas lightning whelk with a beautiful black silky body. Now when shells die, they lose all their mushy part inside, and guess who moves in? The most wonderful recycling creatures, the hermit crabs. And here we have an example of a shell that's died, and it's been recycled by the hermit crab. And here he's coming out to say hello. And when you find a shell on the beach that has a hermit crab in it, you have to think about who needs the shell more, you or the hermit crab. And we're going to put him back in the water because he's the kind that lives in water. He doesn't live on land like the kind they sell in the pet shops. Those are land crabs. And so all the snails that die are recycled by the hermit crabs. Here's an I've never been able to say that since I watched Nemo, but it's an anemone, and it's nothing more than an attached jellyfish, and they're beautiful flowers of the sea. And that brings us to this tank over here that I call my flower garden. And it shows all the anemones, and look who's in the back. You can barely see him, but it's our lobster. And I'm going to continue taking you over to one. This is a baby. You can see the back part of him here. It's a spiny lobster like they have in the Caribbean, and they call it langosta. And as we come over this way, I'm going to show you somebody that's absolutely incredible, and it's Spike. You're going to get to meet Spike. Spike is our beautiful lobster who has grown up. Look at him. And he's my buddy. Isn't he beautiful?
Yes, he is.
Now, the most important thing about him is, this is how big we found him. It was very cold 3 years ago, and he was freezing to death, and we brought him in, and we thought he was dead. He was so stiff and cold. Well, he came to life, and look at all of his molts. Every time he got bigger and bigger and bigger, every time he molted. We love him. We'll never think about eating him. And then one more thing I'd like to show you, our superhero, and he lives in here. And let me see if I can turn this so you can see him. Where'd you go? There he is. Here he comes out. That's our little superhero, the pistol shrimp. And he can create a tiny bubble of gas which explodes to stun and kill its prey. And that bubble also creates a flash of light which gets almost as hot as the sun. He's our little superhero, no more than an inch long. And so we're glad you came today and hope you enjoyed all of our wonderful creatures, and there's many more, so come see us. This guy has to stay with us because his tail's been cut off and he can't be released into the wild. He has no way of protecting himself. He was caught by a fisherman and they cut off his tail. And I have a stingray barb if you want to see it.
Would you like to show?
I would love to show you. I'll get the key and bring you the stingray barb, and you will see how dangerous this can be. Where's the key, George? Stingray barb, I keep it under lock and key because it can be very dangerous.
Does this guy have a story as to why he's here?
Yeah, this Atlantic stingray. She said was caught, and then.
Oh, the purple mouth moray.
Oh,
yes. Very rare for this area.
Extremely.
And she was caught on a hook and brought to us, and she's revived from her injury, and she'll probably stay with us. And she's doubled in size since we gotten her.
It's great.
But called purple mouth moray.
I see you have that now.
So here is the stingray barb I was telling you about, and it would have been in the portion of the tail that was cut off, and this is their defense. And you can see that the barb is serrated, so it pushes through very easily, but when you try to pull down, it will not come out. So it has to be pushed through or work its way through a body or surgically removed. And of course we know this is how we've lost several of our friends. Unfortunately, Steve Irwin, and one of our dolphins lost his life with a stingray barb in his heart as well. So, yep, but this guy is now defenseless and will stay with us. And is quite tame. He's very, very sweet. Hey, come on. See, they get to be friends.
I believe so.
Hello there, welcome to Space Center Houston. We're the official visitor center for Johnson Space Center. Of course, people often ask us, well, what do you do here in Houston anyway? We never launch from here and we never land here. Never have, never will. All the shuttles have launched out of Florida, Cape Canaveral, Kennedy Space Center, and we do try to land them all there. Houston is home to mission control for the manned missions. We also do a lot of research and development here, and we have the largest astronaut training facility. And for the most part, while the astronauts are training, they live right around this area with their families. This is a great place to live. Please come visit us here at Space Center Houston. We'd love to show you around. Launching before you know it. I'm going to introduce you to that crew and show you what they'll be doing on that mission. We also have a crew of 5 currently living on the International Space Station. That's our picture there on the center screen behind me. I'm going to introduce you to them as well. But over here on the right-hand screen, you're getting a live look into one of our Mission Control Center rooms across the street at Johnson Space Center. We have 2. Both rooms are called FCRs, that's FCR. Now it has an acronym for everything. It stands for Flight Control Room. The white FCR is the flight control room for the space shuttle missions, and it's located just down the hall from this room. This is FCR 1, the flight control room for the International Space Station flight controllers. And for some reason, they've really zoomed the camera in today. So you're just seeing the very back right corner of the room. The room is much larger than this. All around here sit flight controllers. And back here at the back of the room, though, you're getting a good look at him. That's our flight director on duty today, Mr. Ed Van Sice. The flight director is the leader of the flight controller team, and that position is manned 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and has been for over 9 years. Well, now I'm going to tell you how to tell the difference between a shuttle mission and a station mission. Shuttle missions are always the initials STS, followed by a number that designates the mission. STS stands for Space Transportation System. Station missions are called expeditions, that's EXP followed by a number, and this is our Expedition 22 crew. We have a pretty international group up there right now. We have 2 American NASA astronauts, 2 cosmonauts. A cosmonaut is a Russian astronaut, that's just what they call them, and a Japanese astronaut. And after I introduce you to this crew that's living on the station, we're going to talk about this next space shuttle mission. All crew members will now travel to and from the International Space Station using the Russian Soyuz. It's a Russian crew carrier, carries a maximum of 3 crew members, and they launch out of Kazakhstan. Commanding Expedition 22 is NASA astronaut Jeff Williams. He's a retired Army colonel. He has master's degrees in aeronautical engineering and in national security and strategic studies, and this has been his 3rd space flight. Cosmonaut Max Suryev serves as flight engineer. He's a pilot engineer researcher and a colonel in the Russian Air Force. This is his first space flight, but earlier last month he conducted a spacewalk. And he did that with cosmonaut Oleg Kotov, who's serving as flight engineer and Soyuz commander. He is a medical doctor. He's also a colonel in the Russian Air Force, and this has been his 2nd long-duration stay aboard the station. Japanese astronaut Soichi Noguchi serves as flight engineer. He has a master's degree in aeronautical engineering, and this is his 2nd space flight. NASA astronaut T.J. Creeper serves as flight engineer and NASA science officer. He is a colonel in the Army. He has a master's degree in physics. And this has been his very first space flight. Here she's working in the microgravity science glove box, and one of our studies is the combustion experiment. We're learning how very differently fire and flame behave in space versus on Earth. And with this information, we can develop safer spacecraft. The completed International Space Station will have 5 state-of-the-art microgravity laboratories, a habitable volume larger than an average 5-bedroom home, and over 1 acre of solar arrays. This crew is also conducting a full program of scientific experiments. Many of these are aimed at learning how humans function during long periods of weightlessness and what we need to do to keep them healthy in that type of an environment. The International Space Station is about 215 miles above Earth. It is orbiting Earth once every 90 minutes, traveling at a speed of 17,500 miles an hour. It has served as a laboratory and training ground for our future missions, and it'll be completed in September this year when the shuttles retire. And of course, people hear the shuttles are retiring. Wow, how are we going to get our crew and supplies to the space station and back? Well, same way I just showed you. As far as crews go, we're going to use the Russian Soyuz, which we're already doing exclusively now. We're not using the shuttle anymore for the rest of the program to get crews back and forth. The Soyuz does seat 3 crew members, and they're kind of shoehorned in there. So that's one of the disadvantages. We cannot take, they're not even room for a suitcase. Can't take much with them. And they also can't bring much home with them. So that's a big disadvantage there. But the Soyuz is a very old, very reliable, and comparatively simple method of space transportation. The crew is in this compartment right here, and this is the only part that actually returns to Earth. And they are able to get in this on the station and return to Earth. From the time that they undock from the station and land on Earth, it's only about 2 hours. So it's a pretty quick way home, that's for sure. And the astronauts say it's kind of like Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, too. It's a pretty exciting ride home. As far as supplies go, we're going to continue using the crafts that we have been using for many years. You just don't hear about them. These are all unmanned, one-way only resupply vehicles. And we have 3 available to us at the moment. There's one private company that is working on developing a U.S. resupply craft, and it'll be ready in the not-too-distant future. Right now, we use the Russian Progress, been using this for years. This is the smaller of the 3, and they make regular trips to the station. We have had 1 European ATV and 1 Japanese HTV up there at the station so far. This is the larger of the 3. They arrive at the station filled with fresh foods like fresh fruits and vegetables, clean clothes, any kind of supplies or equipment that they need up there at the station at that time. That includes any kind of experimental equipment, experiments, and so on. So after the crew offloads all the new equipment and supplies into the station, and these turn into giant trash cans, and they reload them full of stuff that's no longer needed on the station. That includes dirty clothes and broken equipment, any kind of trash. And then once these separate from the station, because they are not protected from the extreme heat on re-entry, they burn up coming back through the Earth's atmosphere. So that's a big disadvantage. Retiring the shuttle will not be able to bring things home. But there's no problem getting things up there to the crews at all. That's just not a concern. There are 15 nations participating in the ISS program, and currently it's over 90% complete, weighs over 350 tons. It is larger than an average 4-bedroom home, and it has been constantly manned for over 9 years. That is 3,381 days as of today. It's an amazing facility. It would have been almost impossible to build a space station without the use of the space shuttle. Shuttles are actually moving vans or 18-wheelers for the space program. Most of the space shuttle is cargo bay. The cargo bays measure 60 foot by 15 foot, and you're looking at Atlantis shortly after it pulled away from the station to bring the crew home on our last shuttle mission. The crews occupy only 2 levels of the very front part of the shuttle. It is cramped quarters for the crew in the shuttle. Most people don't realize that. The only time they have access to the cargo bay is during the spacewalk wearing the spacesuit. And if they exit the shuttle's airlock to do a spacewalk versus the stations, which is what they usually use if they're docked to the station, and if they exit the shuttle's airlock, they come out right through here to do a spacewalk. This is where the shuttle docks to the space station. The crew moves right through the middle of that to go from shuttle into station, then back into shuttle. The inside of the shuttle's cargo bay doors is the radiators for the shuttle, and that's the communications antenna. One of the first things they do when they get into space is open the cargo bay doors and put that antenna out, and then they reverse that process shortly before coming back home. You're also getting a good look at the shuttle's robotic arm, or Canada arm. That's Canada's huge contribution to the space program, these amazing robotic arms. And over here on the other side, it's hard to see, but that's the robotic arm extension or boom extension. And there's cameras on the end of that, and that's what they use to examine the shuttles with. You'll see a little bit more about that in just a few minutes. We have 3 shuttles in the fleet: Discovery, Atlantis, and Endeavour. They cannot go to the moon or to Mars, but they are very good at what they were designed for, and that is to carry really big stuff into space. All right, here's our crew for this next mission, and they are so ready to go. They're over there at Kennedy Space Center right now in quarantine, just to make sure they don't come down with something before they launch. And they are still going through training like all crews do right up to launch time. We are looking at February the 7th as our target launch date for this 13-day mission. It's also the first day of the launch window, which is a series of days during which we can accomplish a launch. So if the weather's bad or a technical issue comes up on the 7th, we can try again on the 8th, and so on. We are using the shuttle Endeavour for this mission, and we're taking up Node 3, which is named Tranquility. Tranquility has a cupola on it, and the crew used the cupola in designing their patch. The crews designed their own patches, and they were really clever with this. Commanding STS-130 is George Zomka. He's a colonel in the Marine Corps. He has a master's degree in engineering management, and this will be his second shuttle mission to the station. Serving as pilot is Terry Virts. He is a colonel in the Air Force. He has a master's degree in aeronautics, and for the last several years, he's been serving as CAPCOM in both our mission control center rooms over at JSC. He will be assisting with robotics during this mission, which is always a lot of fun to watch. Mission Specialist Nicholas Patrick holds a PhD in mechanical engineering. He will be conducting all 3 of the spacewalks to be done on this mission, and we're looking forward to having him back up there too. He is a pretty fun guy. Mission Specialist Bob Bankin is a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force. He also has a PhD in mechanical engineering, and he will also be conducting all 3 of those spacewalks right along with Nick. Mission Specialist Steve Robinson is the 3rd crew member who has a PhD in mechanical engineering. He is an old spacewalker himself, but we're not going to send him outside this time. He will be assisting the spacewalkers from inside the station. And Mission Specialist Kay Heyer is a captain in the Navy Reserves, and she has a master's degree in space technology. She will be assisting with robotics and also working with the transfers of supplies and equipment from the shuttle to the station and then back the other way. And that's no easy task there. And of course, as always, our best wishes go out to the crew, and we wish for them a very safe and successful mission. Many of us who work here are privileged to get to watch the astronauts conduct some of their training. Also, many of us who live around here live near astronauts. We do get to see them often in the grocery stores and the restaurants and the parks and church and Little League and, of course, around the neighborhoods. So anytime a mission goes up, there's a big piece of our hearts that goes up with them as well. And we did learn a lot from the Columbia disaster. We can now thoroughly examine the shuttle's nose to tail after launch, then we do it again before landing to see if it has sustained any damage that put the crew at risk on re-entry. If they find damage, they can now repair that damage. Couldn't do any of that before Columbia. But they do have to plan for worst case scenario. What if a shuttle were damaged beyond repair? Then what do you do? When you're docked at the space station, the crew moves from the damaged shuttle into the station. They use that as safe haven. They take enough provisions to live with the station crew for at least a month, and we have to have another shuttle ready to move out to the launch pad to serve as a rescue mission to go to the station and retrieve the crew. Now, obviously, we don't plan to demonstrate any of the latter there, but it is very comforting to have a plan like that in place. This is a major milestone with this mission. When we install Tranquility, we will have completed the U.S. segment of the station. We'll remove it from the shuttle's cargo bay using the station's robotic arm and attach it to the port-facing docking port on Node 1, and then they'll use that robotic arm to relocate the cupola. It won't fit in the cargo bay there, so you're going to have to move it around to its final resting place there, and the spacewalkers will go out and remove the protective coverings and launch restraints. They'll also be making a lot of connections for fluid, fuel, and power lines. Here's our cupola, 7 windows, and the view through this will be spectacular. And because of this view, this will be used as a control room for the robotics operations. Throughout the station, there are many units or racks that are interchangeable. They're identical in size, and we're going to be relocating 5 of these from other parts of the station and installing them in Tranquility. This is all things we have to have for continued human presence up there. That includes the second treadmill, which was so cleverly named Colbert by NASA, if any of you followed that big contest. Also, one of the space potties, that's what your toilet looks like in space, and the always famous water recovery system, and so on. Throughout the mission, the crew will be transferring tons of supplies, equipment, food, water, experiments, clean clothes from the shuttle into the station, and things that need to be brought back home, of course, go back the other way. Fortunately, it's really easy to move things around in space because they've got a lot of stuff to move. This is the 24th mission for the Shuttle Endeavour. It is also the 32nd shuttle mission dedicated to assembly and maintenance of the International Space Station and the 130th shuttle mission overall. Landing for this mission, like for all of them, is scheduled at Kennedy Space Center in Florida. But in case of bad weather in Florida, we do have alternate landing sites. First choice alternate is Edwards Air Force Base in California, where the weather is almost always nice. We can bring them back to White Sands, New Mexico. It is a whole lot faster and about $1.8 million cheaper to bring them back home to home base in Florida to start with. So that's why they always try so hard to do that. We are often asked, what do you do here in Houston? We never launch from here. We never land here. Never have, never will. All the shuttles have launched out of Florida, Cape Canaveral, Kennedy Space Center, and we do try to land them all there. Houston is home to mission control for the manned missions. We also do a lot of research and development here, and we have the largest astronaut training facility. And for the most part, while the astronauts are training, they live right around this area with their families. This is a great place to live. We all benefit every day, whether you know it or not, from one or more things just from the shuttle program. To see an entire list, go online and put in Space Shuttle spinoff, and then Google NASA spinoffs. You're going to have to use your imagination there, but you can see how very different our lives would be now if the space program had never happened. That's a real eye-opener there. We do have some other exciting things going on. The two little rovers, Spirit and Opportunity, which were designed to last for only 90 days, have now been on Mars for 6 years. They're both still going strong, sort of. Spirit is stuck, and it's going to stay stuck. They're now calling it a stationary science platform. They're still using it, though, and until it runs out of juice, they'll continue to do so. I'm going to show you the latest image from each rover, and Opportunity's still running around and doing fine. Of course, everybody always wants to know when we're going to send men and women to Mars. Well, it really can't answer that right now, but it's still going to happen, that's for sure. We have been through some big changes just in the last couple of days. I'm sure you've been hearing about it on the news. The Constellation program has now been canceled, and a lot of people are concerned about this. I was too right at first, but the more you read about this and understand the history of this program and then where we want to go in the future, the more you'll understand why this needed to happen and how this change is actually quite good. Constellation was actually underfunded. We had a deadline we had to make, and then there were a lot of budget cuts that had to happen, and so there was really no way to develop the technology that we need to have if we're going to actually get you to Mars in a timely manner and certainly safely. So it's pretty interesting what NASA has done. They've decided that they're going to put money into the private industry, which is potentially a bottomless pit of money as far as incentives. And so the private industry will have competitions with each other to develop the technology that will get you, and I see a lot of young people in here, get you to Mars or perhaps to an asteroid or who knows where else we're going to send you more safely than we could now, and certainly faster, which is definitely a benefit when you're talking about being in space. So it's very promising if you look ahead to the future, because this is also going to open up many, many more jobs than we would have if this was just included in NASA. So don't get discouraged. Look ahead. I encourage you to go online and check out some of this information, because it really is quite fascinating. Yes, a lot of money was spent already on Constellation, but we did learn from that as well. So education is expensive. But also, there's a lot of people who have lost their jobs right now. Thousands of jobs have been lost, and that's unfortunate for sure, but that's just the way it is. But in the future, there will be even more jobs available, so you have to look and weigh the cost of it versus the benefit in the long run. I think you'll find that quite interesting. So that's just some of what's going on at NASA right now. I do want to thank you for joining me here on Blast Off. I have available for you up here at the front of the stage, which you're welcome to pick up as you exit to your right. There's two little piles, and they're exactly alike. It's a list of websites that you can go to and get the answers to any questions you might have about the space program, and I will also be available by the door just in case you have any questions for me on your way out. Enjoy the rest of your stay at Space Center Houston, and thanks again for joining me.
This is a space shower. Now, we don't have a shower on board the International Space Station, but we did have one on board Skylab back in the 70s, so let me show you how that works. Inside, there's a nozzle. This is for spraying the water. And there's a second nozzle. This is a vacuum for drying off. Remember, water can't flow down the drain. just sort of hangs around till this vacuum picks it up. But the astronauts on board Skylab found that they really didn't like using the shower and took too much time and effort, over an hour to shower and clean up all the water. So that's why we use those large wipes to bathe today. And you can get a look at the Skylab shower and the Skylab trainer in Starship Gallery. These next two units, this is the crew healthcare facility, and this is where the astronauts will come to take care of such things as cuts and abrasions, their space sickness, but it's also able to do other diagnostic testing such as blood and urine analysis. Each of our astronauts are trained in emergency medical technique, so the necessary skill is always on board. Our final area, this is the galley. This is where the astronauts would come to prepare their food, talk about what's happened during the day, basically to relax. So there could be a number of astronauts floating around this area, some right side up, some upside down, talking and preparing food. Now, preparing food in space has its own set of challenges. Each of the food packet has a little Velcro patch on the back.
All right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Terry Hartman, and I would like to welcome you to Historic Mission Control. Now, before I go on with my briefing this morning, or this afternoon, I should say, NASA's asked me to make a security announcement, which is simply this. If we have to vacate this room in this building, we're going to ask you to just simply go back down the way you came up, down the stairs or elevator, out the door, back to the tram, and await further instructions. If for some reason we cannot use that stairwell, there's an exit right here, one right over here. We're going to ask you to quietly go out those doors, assemble in the lobby area behind us back here, and await instructions from me. If you have special needs, I'm going to ask you to stay with me. Everything will be just fine. Well, now that we have that out of the way, welcome to MOCR 2. Mission Operations Control Room 2 is what this room was referred to back during the Apollo era. However, those of us who worked here, we simply refer to this room as the green room, because as you can see, all of the consoles in this room are green. And back during that era, we had another room that was the exact duplicate of this one. We used for backup. Also, we used it for special missions. We gave that room the highly scientific name, the brown room, because all the consoles were brown. This is the room, however, that history fell on. We opened this room in 1965. And the first mission controlled out of this room was a mission called Gemini 4. If you look at that picture right over there, that's what took place during that mission. It was the first time in America's history that an American performed a spacewalk. Today we refer to those as EVAs, or extravehicular activities. And how we got from spacewalk in the 60s to EVAs today, I'm going to let you go home and look that up on the internet. Anyway, the man in that spacesuit, his name is Ed White. Ed was one of the astronauts who was killed in the Apollo 1 fire. Now, we kept this room open and very active until the middle 1990s. Not with this equipment, mind you. In the years between, we handled 9 Gemini missions, all of the Apollo lunar missions, and 21 shuttle missions were controlled out of this room. Then in 1995, we officially retired and decommissioned the room. And at that time, we went to the Smithsonian Aerospace Museum in Washington, D.C. They had been storing all of this equipment for us. We went there, had it all brought back here to Houston, and we put every console, every bookcase, every credenza back exactly where it had been 40 plus years ago. And I can tell you with great assurance that the room looks as it did back then. The only thing missing are quite a few of the people who worked here. And if you look closely at the equipment, you can see we were using state-of-the-art equipment back in those days. Every console has its own little rotary dial telephone. And back in that era, any of us who were on the floor or in the back rooms conducting calculations, each one of us had our own personal handheld, no batteries required computers. They look like this. Slide rules. You know, today when I tell people that we handled all those lunar missions and we utilized these, they just don't believe me. But we did not have computers or calculators to do it. Those were a product of the space program. Back in that era, We have the latest in high-tech communications equipment in order to get messages and data from our main control rooms to our support rooms. I'd like you all to take a look at 1960s email. Yeah, this is how we got data and information from our main control rooms to our support rooms. He's carried a lot of data. A few ham and cheese sandwiches. For those of you old enough to remember what a 7-ounce Coke bottle looked like, it fit perfectly in here. You just had to be real careful when you opened it at the receiving end. Folks, back in those days, we had not computers, but terminals. These are television sets. We looked at data and looked at data only. Some of the data we were looking at was hand-rendered, drawn by hand or typed up on a typewriter. Look at the screen to the left, you'll see what I'm talking about. We had no interaction whatsoever with the equipment or the spacecraft like we have in today's modern control rooms. Now, what do I mean by that? Look at the monitor there and there. These are two different camera angles of the same room. We call this room the white thicker. The white flight control room, and there are people in that room right now. They're in the middle of a simulation. You see, for the past 60 missions, that's been shuttle mission control. They're in there conducting a simulation for a future shuttle mission. We have a mission launching on Sunday, STS-130. The Endeavour will be leaving Florida at 3:39 in the morning on its way to the space station. And that's control room is right on the other side of the screens that are in front of you. But there's something I wanted to point out here. You see the flight director right there? Her name is Ginger Carrick. Now, when I came up in this business, it was a good old boys club. We now currently have 30 active flight directors, and 10 out of that 30 are females. As I said, Ginger's a good friend. And she knows how to cook. She hit me for saying that. Anyway. I want to show you another control room real quick. This is Flicker 1. Flight Control Room 1 is manned 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, year-round. You see, that's the current control room for the International Space Station. We have a crew of 5 up on board that ISS right now. 2 Russian cosmonauts, 2 American astronauts, and 1 Japanese astronaut. And these guys aren't busy. They've got a full daily schedule. Experiments, maintaining equipment, and installing new equipment. They're passengers, guys. That's right. They're along for the ride. That space station's altitude, its attitude, the environmental systems, electrical generation, illumination, power, heating, everything on board that space station is being controlled by the people you see seated at those consoles in that room. And that room is directly below you. It's right underneath us. It used to be called the Brown Room. We're going to take a little tour of this room. I want to point out a few of the locations. We're going to start off, first of all, 2 rows up here where the panel says Flight Director. Now, during a mission, the Flight Director is in total control and thoroughly responsible for the mission. Number 1 priority, safety of the crew. 2, safety and integrity of the spacecraft. 3, complete all of the mission objectives. Now, in order to get that accomplished, during a mission, all of the flight controllers on the floor report to the Flight Director and the hundreds of controllers in support rooms. They also report the flight. The crew on board the spacecraft, that's the boss. Such men as Christopher Kraft, NASA's first flight director, Gene Kranz, Apollo 11 and 13, amongst others. If you look over here at the wall on the left, there are 18 proclamations up on that wall. These are mission statements made by every flight director who worked in this room and called that console the office. Now, right in front of flight, next row up, that's where Capcom sat. Capcom is an acronym for Capsule Communications. And that's a term we still use today in every one of our control rooms. You see, during a mission, there's only one person in mission control who will be in verbal communication with the crew on board. Capcom. And for that reason, Capcom is always an astronaut, talking to fellow astronauts on a mission. Alan Shepard, John Glenn, Wally Schirra, Gordon Cooper, all the original Mercury astronauts, all the way up to today's core of astronauts. It is a job requirement. It comes with a paycheck. That every astronaut will spend time seated at Capcom. Now there's another console in this room in particular I like to point out. It's right here, the last row. This is PAO, Public Affairs Officer. We have one of those in every control room still today. Anytime you hear somebody say to you, this is Houston Mission Control, that's PAO talking to you. But the reason I like to point out this console in this room is because of these 4 cute little TV sets. You see, today, when we go home at night, we can grab our remote and channel surf through what, 100 plus channels? We didn't have that in the 60s. We only had 4 networks. You watched ABC, NBC, CBS, or public broadcasting. And if the President of the United States was talking to the nation that night, forget it. You could go out and shoot some hoops or read a good book, but if you turned on the boob tube, he was going to be on every channel for as long as he wanted to be. Times have changed. Folks, I wish I could let you experience the history that has taken place in this room. The people I have met right here in this room. Right where you're at. Every president of the United States since Lyndon Johnson's been right here. The Queen of England, Prince Philip, came in. Her Majesty sat right down here in this 3rd chair. We call that the throne to this day. Ron Howard and Tom Hanks came in for a visit. Ron was shooting a movie called Apollo 13, and he wanted to shoot the movie here, but he realized he couldn't because they couldn't get the big lights and the cameras and the equipment in. So he went back to Hollywood and completely reproduced this room and this room on a sound stage. The movie was good, but we had a few problems with it. For example, during the movie, it showed the astronauts arguing. Who turned, what'd you hit that switch for? What happened? They never argued. They knew exactly what had happened. They were just working hard with the people in this room to get back to Earth alive. In regards to that mission, there's a little piece of history right over here. Right inside that picture frame. It's nothing but a mirror. It's about this big. You see, a lot of people, even today, don't realize what took place during those lunar missions. You had 2 astronauts inside the LEM, the Lunar Excursion Module. They were inside, standing up next to each other in spacesuits. Now, the reason they were standing up is because they couldn't sit down. There was no room. There wasn't even enough room when they were in their spacesuits to turn around and look at some instruments that they needed to see on the way down. So we installed a mirror where they could look in that mirror and get the readings they needed. Below the mirror, there's an inscription that reads, "This mirror flown on Aquarius Lunar Module 7 to the moon April the 11th to the 17th, 1970. Returned by a grateful Apollo 13 crew to reflect the image of those in mission control who got us back safely." Signed Jim Lovell, Jack Schweiger, and Fred Hayes. The guys walked in that door right down there with that in hand as a thank you gift. There were about 100 controllers here in the room to welcome them home, and a lot of those controllers weren't even on the Apollo 13 mission roster. They had been at home, heard what was happening, came in and slept on the floors for 3 days. You see, everybody wanted to be here to help get those guys back alive. The astronauts insisted we put that over the drinking fountain for a reason. Every time a controller would go over there to get a drink of water, they'd look up and see themselves in that mirror. Realize what part they had played in that mission and in America's exploration of space. As I said, on July the 20th, 1969, the word first heard in this room from the moon. Neil Armstrong, Houston, Tranquility Base here. And in December of 1972, as Gene Cernan and Harrison Schmitt departed the route to the moon for the last time with Apollo 17, they also sent a message here. We have ignition, Houston. You see, folks, the very first word ever heard from another world was Houston. To this date, the last word, Houston. This is Houston, the home of the Manned Space Flight Center, the home of Mission Control. On behalf of NASA, Johnson Space Center, and Space Center Houston, I want to thank you all for coming to visit us today, especially in this beautiful weather. Enjoy the rest of your tour. Bye-bye.